What's going on, team? Congratulations for taking some time on a Saturday to make an investment in yourself, in your own personal knowledge and development. My life has changed dramatically due to making consistent investments in my head, and it continues to keep paying dividends. So we like to keep these webinars really kind of small. So that way we can interact at a high level. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I want this to be as interactive as possible. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Novello. I've been selling real estate for 17 years here in Southeast Florida. I sold 2,000 properties in my career. 80% of that business was listings sold. I also started a coaching company about a decade ago, teaching agents how to grow and scale their business primarily through listing property in high volume. And 100 coaching clients, 30 one-on-ones, 12 of the one-on-ones make over $1 million a year. I used to own part of an office. I sold it back. And in the last 22 months, we've attracted just under 300 agents to the Elite Builders at EXP. What's really interesting is that all that sounds like pretty wonderful. If you really knew me, though, you'd know in my first calendar year of selling real estate, I only made $13,000, right? So that's definitely not something people would hop on a webinar to figure out precisely how you made below the poverty line, right? Definitely not something that people would pay you to teach them how to do. And the question is how is that possible? How do you go from $13,000 in a calendar year to grossing over 7 figures consistently year after year in the same business? And the issue really is information, right? Because information is the real currency. And, I didn't know what the way was, but I was either going to find the way or make the way, because it not working out was really not an option, right? I didn't really have a plan B. Selling real estate is all I've ever done after graduating from the University of Florida. So what I did is I got proximity. I got proximity to the best coaches, the best trainers, the best mentors, and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars pouring into my head so that way I could learn what this business was and specifically how to go out and generate on a daily basis income. And now I no longer worry about market conditions. I no longer worry about things like the NAR lawsuit for myself or for, our agents or the coaching clients that provide me the good fortune of having access to their thinking. And I believe, I really do, that everybody that's on this webinar with the right kind of mental maps, the right approach, and the right niche, right? Because the riches are in the niches. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is this untapped niche for a lot of agents. You guys can accomplish anything I've done, if not more, in less time, right? So what we're going to do for the next, maybe like 40, 45 minutes is I'm going to go over with you 2 things, right? The first is specifically what this untapped niche is. Okay, probate and estate sales of real property. The reasons why it's an enormous opportunity, both demographically, but also just kind of practically, right, as a life event. And then we're going to talk about kind of the internal and external beliefs that I see that stop people from, really taking the time to figure this particular niche out. So that way you're fully equipped and you can make this a source of business like it was for me, which is 50 to 60 listings per year, each and every year, year after year, right? So the first question is all right, well, why is this such a big opportunity? Well, what we're after, particularly if you want to list property in high volume, is we're after very highly motivated sellers. And when we go from 6 million transactions, which is what we had in the calendar year of 2022, to 4 million transactions in 2023, and more likely than not going to have the same amount of transactions in 2020. People who are going to sell have a life event that's causing them to sell, right? Not like, hey, I want like a bigger backyard for my dog, right? That's not a sufficient level of motivation. And 90% of all homeowners in the United States who have mortgages that are less than 6%. And with rates in the 7s, why would they trade in a lower interest rate for a higher one? Well, the only reason they would do that is if they had to, okay? So life events are things like death, divorce, job relocation, moving to assisted living facilities, retirement, some sort of event in life that's compelling, right? Motivation is a motive to take action. It's compelling someone to be in the marketplace and transacting. So death is one of those, right? And it happens in all marketplaces, independent of market conditions, whether interest rates are at 7, 8, 9, 10%, or if they're at 3, 4, 5%, whether the economy is going fantastically well or it's not, right? So if I'm going to build my business, let's say it being listing based, I want to have a source of business that I can go out into the marketplace and cultivate each and every day, 2, 3 hours a day, that is stable and consistent. And this particular life event I would propose is stable and consistent, right? Death and taxes, they say. 2 things that are guaranteed in life. So I think the reason why this is such an untapped niche is that the vast majority of coaches and kind of trainers in the real estate space, they talk about what I would call the 4 horsemen, which are expireds, for sale by owners, cancels, and just listing, just solds. And those are good sources, right? When I started selling real estate in 2006, 2008 happened, financial kind of crisis and meltdown. And I did 100 deals one year in 2010 or 11, and 75 were expired listings. But that was based on market conditions, right? Because inventory exploded and these weren't selling. But then the marketplace got really good. And when the marketplace got really good, what do you think happened to the expired listings? They shrunk. And if I wanted to continue to keep growing and expanding, I needed a different source of business, right? And it's not as though expireds, FSBOs, and cancels, or just listed, just sold, are bad. I mean, they're good sources. Like, anything works if you work it. The issue is that they do fluctuate with markets, right? So if you specialize in expireds when the marketplace is really good, there's not that many of them. If you specialize in for sale by owners when the marketplace is really good, oftentimes they sell, right? Same with kind of cancels. So I want to be in what I would call a blue ocean, not a red ocean. So what do I mean by that? Red oceans are oceans in which there are lots of sharks and lots of blood in the water, right? That would be like expires, for sale by owners, cancels, just listed, just solds. Because there's a lot of agents hanging out there, and it's perfectly okay. Like, I'm a great white, right? I can push into a red ocean and get my unfair share. I'd much rather swim in blue oceans, though. Blue oceans is where there aren't that many sharks in the water, and there's not that much blood in the water. And what I have found in this particular source of business, because there are some internal and external beliefs that stop people, plus some specialized knowledge that's required beyond just helping people transact, a piece of property in terms of the legal aspect of probate and things of that nature, that probate is very much so a blue ocean, and that your main competition is really not agents, it's investors. And known about this source for an extended period of time. They bombard people with mailings, but very few actually do phone calls, and they're not very skilled at it, right? So I found it to be like a wonderful blue ocean where there isn't that many people calling. There isn't as much competition, okay? So that's as far as the opportunity perspective, in terms of probate. Now, the question becomes, because, when you hear those kind of numbers or those reasons why this opportunity makes so much sense, fear trumps facts. That's my experience. So 65% of these properties that are in probate and estate, they're free and clear statistically. Think about that. 65% of them are free and clear. And the motivation, if families do want to sell, is exceptionally high. It's very, very high, right? So if you look at all of that kind of holistically, you just like, yeah, this is a fantastic source of business, right? 65% are free and clear, motivations through the roof, right? It is a life event. It is market resistant, independent of market conditions. It's always available, and it is a blue ocean. All of that points to, hey, this makes sense for me to stack time on top of this particular skill and learning this skill. At the same time, what I'm aware of is that fear trumps facts. So I think it would be helpful or useful to get into kind of the internal objections to pursuing this particular lead source. The first one is people saying something like, well, I can't call these people, someone just died. And I want you guys to picture this. Like, imagine that you have a loved one that passed away and you're perhaps in a different state. Their house is completely full of contents, like a full house, like somebody's lived there, totally full of contents. You have a full-time job and you have your own family. And you're the one that's responsible for not only the whole estate as a whole and dealing with your siblings and all that other stuff, but also disposing of everything inside of the property and selling the actual home. I mean, imagine how overwhelming that would be. It's tremendously. Imagine how stressful that is. And then imagine You know no real estate professionals or no people who do like clear outs or estate sales or anything in that geographic area. Okay. You have all of these particular problems, right? And selling is really about solving other people's problems, right? So then imagine for a moment that a professional reaches out to you, understands the legal aspect of probate, has ancillary services like they can plug you in with vendors that are licensed, bonded, and insured. And their intention is to take as much off of your shoulders, put onto theirs, and make it as smooth and easy as possible. I mean, how helpful and relieved would you be getting that phone call? Tremendously. I have had so many people that have actually said to me out loud when I called them, Aaron, I had no idea what I was going to do until you called me. What I'm also aware of is that, being that your main competition in this particular space is investors, and investors are doing, information arbitrage. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to purchase at a very steep discount. So the way that I perceive this is like, we're the white hat, right? And what I would say to families all the time is like, listen, I'm respectful of the fact that you've had individuals reach out to you with an intention to maybe make you an offer. And I know that their goal and objective is to make a profit themselves. And for some people, expediency or speed, has value. At the same time, I have to imagine if you knew that there was a way that you could sell the property equally as quickly and end up helping your family net 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 more in your pocket when it's all said and done, that you would want to know about that. And your preference would be is that your family could get that money versus an investor getting that money. Would you agree? Like, who's going to say no to that, right? The other thing that's important too is like how you're kind of introducing, the introduction of this call, right? Because it is, sensitive, and I am respectful of that. So you have to demonstrate, kind of emotional intelligence. There's two forms of intelligence. There's intellectual intelligence, and then there's emotional intelligence. So what that sounds like is something like this. Yes, hi, my name is Aaron Novello. I'm a local real estate agent here in wherever the property is, right? And I specialize in probate and estate sales of real property. I was reaching out to you this morning because my head researcher pointed out to me that very shortly, if not already, you will be appointed the personal representative in the blank estate, or forgive my pronunciation, Novello estate. And I realize I do sincerely that I may be a little premature in some way. I was calling you very respectfully, of course, with regards to the real property on 1265 Banana Street, simply just to find out if you and the rest of your siblings, looks like Susie, Jim, and John, if you guys had decided that ultimately at some point you would like to get that property on the market and to get it sold, right? So, in doing so, I'm getting very quick to the point, who I am, why I'm calling them. I'm also demonstrating emotional intelligence. Like I recognize that I may be a little premature in some way. I was calling very respectfully, of course, with regards to the real property. And then, is the intention to hold on to it? And they're only going to say three things: yes, no, or we're not sure yet, right? And then there's ways that you can handle that. So, in terms of that internal belief, beliefs are just opinions that we've developed loyalty to over time. And that internal objection, I can't call these people, someone died. Again, I'm just very well aware, having done this for an extended period of time, that people are extremely appreciative because you're solving a very complicated problem at a very difficult time in their life. The second internal kind of objection that I hear from people is that this is like, probate is a complex legal process, and I'm afraid like making a mistake or messing it up. And I need like everybody on this call to be clear on something, right? Is that we're just selling the real property. We're not like administering the probate. Now, how we can add value is by having an understanding of the legal aspect of probate. Like if you're serious about this source and you want to make this the type of source that it has been for me, right? 50 to 60 listings each and every year, year in and year out, it will require that you learn some of the legal aspects of probate in your geographic area, because it's not it's not a uniform process, like from state to state. They have different language, what they call certain things, and perhaps a little bit different of a process. But procedurally underneath, for the most part, that process is similar. But the language in each state might be a little bit different, but you're going to have to, learn that. At the same time, we're just helping people facilitate, the sale of the real property. As a value add, I can provide information in terms of the legal aspect. I'm not an attorney. I want to be very clear on that, right? At the same time, because we facilitate so many of these, we're very familiar with the legal aspect in this geographic area. And I would suggest or propose that, you do the same if you want to be serious about this particular source, because there's different ways you can add value. Like, truthfully, anybody can help them sell the real property. Anybody can do that. The question is can you connect them with ancillary services that you've already, vetted, that are licensed, bonded, and insured? Do you have a project manager that is, your personal assistant, which makes them their personal assistant, who can oversee getting contents cleared out, donate to local charities, light handyman work, right, while they're in another state? Like, these are ways that you can actually add value beyond just helping sell the real property. I also hear people ask me, like, hey, do I need to become a probate specialist to be able to sell real property? I'm like, I am not certified. I don't have any certification for probate. And the best certification is like doing it. I would suggest or propose that in terms of understanding the legal aspect of things, is if you do have a probate attorney that or somebody does estate planning, just taking them out to lunch and just walking them through the process. Like, hey, what's the first pleading called? What happens when somebody passes away, if it's testate or intestate, meaning if they have a will or they don't. Because in order to play any game, guys and gals, you need to know the language of the game. So in other words, like, let's say like somebody wants to play American football. Like, if they don't know what offsides is, they can't play the game. If they don't know what pass interference is, they can't play the game. Right? So you need to know the language of the game in order to play the game. Right? And you can also watch videos, on YouTube, kind of explaining it in your geographic state, the way that process works. So you can get a general understanding procedurally of how it works, right? Another internal kind of conflict and belief that I see people have resisting this kind of moving into this niche and making it a legitimate pillar of their business is that they worry about, it has limitations. Right? Like, if I just focus on this niche, I'm missing out on all these other opportunities. And again, what this is about is like, as somebody who is smart, hardworking, and ambitious, where am I stacking my time? Right? So would it make sense for me to stack my time on a source of business that is market resistant, that 65% of the homes are free and clear, that the motivation's through the roof if they do want to sell, and that it's a blue ocean, meaning there's not as much competition? And the answer is emphatically yes. And I've always found personally extreme power and focus, right? So I built my business initially based on what the marketplace was giving me, which at the time was expired listings, 2008, 9, 10, 11, and grew up to like 100 transactions a year. And 75% of those deals were expireds. And then the marketplace shifted and got good, and that source of business dried up. It didn't dry up completely, but it did go down, and I wanted to continue to grow and expand. It wasn't acceptable for me to do less, so I needed to find another source. We pivoted over into this source. I focused all of my time and energy on it, and again, that became 50 to 60% of our business, and allowed me to go from 100 deals all the way up to 200 deals. I did 200 transactions twice, 2017 and 18. So I don't believe that that's true. I think that there's massive value in focus and extreme power and focus. And because it's a niche, right, or a niche, whatever you want to, however you say it, there's just less competition. The other one is like worrying that there's not enough demand in my geographic area, right? That there's not enough probate and estate sales. Now, it's true that I do live in heaven's waiting room, right? We have the largest elderly population in the country in Florida. At the same time, the math and the demographics of this are enormous. So I don't know if you knew this, but the average homeowner is 56 years old in the United States. Okay. And senior citizens, which are 65 and up, have the highest home ownership rate at 78.6%. It's enormous, right? And what I'm also aware of is they're one of the biggest demographics out there. What's up, Casey? How you doing, brother? Yep, started 2 weeks ago. Already took my first listing. Let's go. I love it, dude. Love that, Casey. Way to go. Appreciate you showing up again. So yeah, like if we look at the demographics of this, it's heavily in our favor, right? You have this whole tsunami and wave of the boomers who are 65 plus and have very high levels of home ownership, 80% of them own homes, getting into that stage in life where they're going to be downsizing or going to be, passing away. And as a result, those properties will go to family members and they're going to have to sell the property. So the question to be asking myself is, does it make sense for me to stack my time on top of this, learning this niche over the next 3 to 5 years? And I believe that the answer is emphatically yes, like 100% hands down. Casey was actually on the last webinar and he picked up the course. And in 2 weeks, he already took his first listing, which I think is amazing, bro. Good for you. What I'm aware of too is that, this idea of like having a lack of support, right? Believing that there's not enough mentorship, education, community support. And that's also not true, right? Where, getting proximity to people who have the specialized knowledge, because really accumulating wealth requires 4 things. The first is specialized knowledge. Things like, okay, where do I get the data from? Where do I get the phone numbers from? What do I say and how do I say it? What does the introduction sound like? What objections are going to come up? And how am I going to handle those objections? Right? That's specialized knowledge. The second thing you need are tools. Tools would be things like, like CRMs, where I can have templates in a CRM, so I can not only call personal representative beneficiaries, but I can also text them, right? And what should I be texting them? Okay, these are tools. The third thing I need is leverage. Leverage are things like people, maybe you have a VA that gets the phone numbers for you and stuff. Then capital, where money works for me. Then media. Heath, I just suggested to him, Casey, a good idea for you is as you're continuing to call these people, you're getting email addresses and stuff. You can blast out, as that database gets bigger over time, you can blast out a text or an email to everybody you've been speaking to and say, hey, I'm doing a webinar on how to sell a property in estate and probate. I'd love for you to attend. Here's the Eventbrite link. Boom, they click on the link and you could do your own webinar like this. You can have a probate attorney on the call, answer any questions, blah, blah, blah. Like, you think that those people eventually aren't going to list their home and then they would reach out to you if they showed up to the webinar? 100%. With a very high degree of probability, right? So, but I also need good judgment. That's the last one. And judgment is about what is best for the long term. So, you just ask yourself a question. In your real estate business, what's best for the long term with the NAR lawsuit and everything that's going on? Well, knowing how to list property in high volume is best for the long term, period, end of story. Like, don't pass go, don't collect $200, like 100%. With a very high degree of probability, revenue on the buy side, more likely than not, will go down over time, right? Who's insulated from that more is listing agents. So if I'm in real estate and my intention is to be doing it for an extended period of time with a very high degree of probability, right? Learning how to list property in high volume is a good long-term decision in terms of where to stack time on top of. Now, if we go down one more level, having a niche that I can go after that is a blue ocean, where there is less competition, not as many sharks in the water, where motivation is properties statistically 65% are free and clear. And if they are motivated, motivation's through the roof, also is best for the long term. Make sense? But the barrier to entry to this, again, is the acquisition of knowledge. It's information. It's the real currency, guys. Right? It's the real currency. So if anybody has any questions so far, drop them in the chat. Casey, I'm curious, what objections or a couple of objections have you started to see come up as you've been speaking to people? I can give you guys one, which is people might say to you, hey, we're not sure what we're going to do next. The response to that is like, that's okay. My job's to help you. It's never, ever to talk you into doing anything. The reason that I ask is, I've had the good fortune of helping a lot of families in these dynamics overcome the challenges that are associated with the process. And I do oftentimes find that when families are making a decision about how to proceed, oftentimes it can be very helpful or useful for them to get a clear, realistic picture of equity. right? I know these online sites can give kind of broad ranges, and it's helpful to get really, really specific with regards to that equity picture. So you could see if, and I'm clear that is an if you did decide to sell, net bottom line, what the proceeds would be to you and your family. Do you think that could be helpful or useful for you? And then be quiet. Right? So if I'm going to take the time to make these calls, if I'm going to take the time to make this a niche for myself, it makes sense for me to invest in the knowledge that I'm going to need in order to make this a productive use of my time, right? In order to make it a productive use of time. And then the other that I wanted to mention to you guys that I see that like kind of gets in the way internally is this idea, like it's not glamorous. You know what I mean? Like, you're like an ambulance chaser, like that sort of thing. You know, people want to be, I think people would prefer to look good than to make money, you know? And, you know, I remember being at I was giving a talk at the Association of Hispanic Realtors, and there was a, you know, young woman there, and she was on like $1 million real estate agent in Miami or something. And, you know, she looked like a model. And she was telling people about building a brand and all this other stuff. And I was like in the back, and I'm like, I wanted to raise my hand and be like, excuse me, ma'am. Yes. I'm like, can you scan this room, please? How many people look like you? 0. How many people would, as a result, could get on TV? 0. So like what she's sharing with them really isn't helpful, right? And the vast majority of agents aren't that productive. You know, in the office that I left prior to moving to EXP, they had 130 agents, and only 9 of them made more than $100,000 a year. So the question I got to ask myself is like, do I want to be glamorous or do I want to make money? And, you know, I think it's portrayed by the way the media like portrays real estate agents. You know, we want to look like, you know, all cool and luxury properties and that sort of thing. And it overshadows the need for probate and estate specialists. But it's a huge service that you're providing, you know, to families and to society, because somebody has to step in and help these people. And who better than me and you to help them? That's my experience. So hopefully you're sufficiently clear now as to why this is such an amazing source of business and can be an amazing source of business for you and your family moving forward. And you're also sufficiently clear that in order to really execute on this, not take it from an idea to materializing, because our personal power as humans is directly correlated with how quickly we can take something from here and make it real, right? Casey was like, yo, I was on the webinar 2 weeks ago. I got the course that you offer on probate, and bam, it already resulted into a listing. That's power, bro, from here to the real world, okay? So what I've done, because I've seen this, I've shared this with coaching clients, right? And I've seen them take off. Shared it with Heath, again, 20 listings in a calendar year. He's a part-time agent. Is I created a course that will teach you everything that you need to know from start to finish, okay? It'll teach you where to get the data from, right? Because there's 2 different places to get data from. One are these online kind of third-party providers, like All the Leads or US Probate Leads. The challenge with that data is that it's not complete. They only give you like the person representative. They don't give you all the beneficiaries, and they only give it to you once a month. And I want to receive that, you know, quicker. So I'll talk to you about showing you with screenshots, right, where to get the data from and what you're looking for at the courthouse and what information that you need. Also going over how to get the actual contact information, phone numbers, what platforms we use to do that. And then walking you through specifically the conversation, what to say and how to say it, right? So what to say, you know, from the beginning all the way through setting appointment, going over all of the objections that you're going to hear, and then walking you through specifically how to handle each one, okay, from start to finish. So it's everything that you could possibly need to make this a legitimate source of business for yourself and your family. Everything that I taught Heath that caused him to go from 0 to 20 transactions as a part-time agent. And, you know, that course is normally $2,500. And because you guys have, you know, hung out with me today, we're going to put something special together for you, right? So not only would you get that course that gives you everything from start to finish, from where to get the stuff at the courthouse, specifically what to say and how to say it, how to get the contact information, how to load it. I show you a screen record showing you how I load it into our CRM, Follow-Up Boss, right? So that way you can call and text directly from there, and how a VA could help you to do that. What I'm also going to provide for you as well is I have a 7 skills bundle, right? That is in 23 countries in 8 languages, where I teach people what to say and how to say it for expireds and for sale by owners, and the pre-qualification, right? Script before you go on an appointment, the actual listing presentation that I give that has allowed me to list over 100 homes a year for 10 years in a row, right? That course, as well as, because I'm so convinced, right, that this will cause your business to grow exponentially, you're going to need help with systems, because you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to. So Casey took a listing after, you know, getting the course right away in 2 weeks. But let's say he took 4. Well, that's going to cause a problem for him. It's going to cause his life to break down, right? So he's going to need systems. And my wife, who's been with me from the beginning, has processed all 2,000 transactions. She's the equivalent of me, but in operations and in systems. And she created a course giving everybody our workflow. So from start to finish, okay, how we process transactions, right? What platforms we use in order to do it, what technology we use in order to do it, with screenshots and screen records. So cumulatively, all that together, guys, all that together is a value of over $3,200. But if you decide today, and it's for the next 48 hours, okay? After the 48 hours, it goes away. So if you decide to make a decision like Casey did and like others have, to make an investment in yourself and in specialized knowledge for today and for the next 48 hours until Monday, you'll get all of that. That's normally $3,200 for $999. Like that's a ridiculous value, like a ridiculous steal. And the reason why I'm willing to do that, guys, is I want to equip you with what you need. I see our industry right now is a lot of people are really freaking out and getting really emotional about, you know, marketplaces correcting, you know, being in an environment with 7+% interest rates, which I think we're going to be in for a while. You know, the NAR lawsuit, and knowledge equals confidence and ignorance equals fear. So the only reason that somebody's afraid is because they don't know something, right? And I feel a duty and responsibility to share with people what I know, so that way it can help them to accomplish their goals and objectives. So, you know, with that, I very much so appreciate, you know, the opportunity to be with you guys here today. I'm here as a resource for you, to help you as much as I possibly can. You can check out, you know, all the stuff we do on YouTube and online. My intention is to add as much value as I possibly can. I'm super excited for those who do take advantage of this offer to get text messages like I get regularly, like, hey man, I just took my first listing, and thanks so much for the opportunity. That's really why I'm doing this. So with that, I want to say thanks for the opportunity. If anybody has any questions or concerns, drop them in the chat. If you have any questions about probate and how to get this thing off the ground, drop them in the chat. I am here to help you guys. What's up, Lazarat? My pleasure. I'm glad it was helpful to you. If you got any questions or concerns, let me know. For our, yeah. Nice to see you. I know, me too. Can't wait for you to be a part of what we're doing here. Let's go, let's grow. Anybody else have any other questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations, mental roadblocks, things getting in your way? Is fear trumping facts? All right, cool. Well, with that, I want to say thank you kindly for taking the time, guys. Let's go, let's grow. Take advantage of that opportunity. I want to see you guys taking listings. DM me that it's helpful and useful to you, and appreciate you. Look forward to reconnecting soon.